So the next exercise that we're talking about is called the branches exercise. In it, we're going to be looking at a process that you can apply. It's essentially just another use of the construction method, just like the leaves exercise. And we're applying it here to learn how to go about tackling the sort of branch-like forms, like the kind of flowing tubes that we end up seeing a lot of when we're dealing with plants. You can see them in other objects too, like anything with piping or tubing or whatever, like a lot of machinery has, hydraulics and stuff. But in this case, we're really mainly just using it for the stems of plants and branches and tree trunks and stuff like that. And so we want to start out by establishing the flow, just like the leaves exercise. So that's going to be just a line that determines how that form flows through three-dimensional space. Next, we want to add slices of, so basically ellipses, contour ellipses. It's similar to lesson 2 where we built the organic forms with contour ellipses, but in this we are actually working from inside out rather than creating the form, the outer kind of edges first and then filling them. Here we're building that structure up from the inside. So we want to just add ellipses. Now keep in mind that you want to watch out for how you apply the degrees of your ellipses. I've explained this previously, where if an ellipse is very narrow, it's like you've taken a coin and turned it so that you're looking at its edge. And if an ellipse is very wide, it's like the face of the coin is looking at, or you're looking at the face of the coin. So the way that your ellipses turn kind of gives the viewer a little bit of a hint as to how this tube is flowing through space. Once you've got those in there, we're going to play something along the lines of connecting our ellipses. So connect the ellipses, connect the dots, whatever. Except instead of connecting them like from one to the next, and then again, and then again, notice how we usually tend to have a little bit of a kind of a dip or stiffness or just some irregularities where these segments connect. So in order to avoid that, we want to, let's see if I can actually rotate this. We want to have our lines flow into one another. So we're going to try that here. We want to draw from the first ellipse through the second towards the third, just a little bit kind of angled towards the third. So always apply your ghosting method. Get used to that muscle memory and that flow of the line that you want to achieve. And we do the same thing here, from the first through the second towards the third. Note that we're kind of having an internal curve here, so we don't want to end up in a situation where we go too far like this and end up missing the mark. We want to hook back around towards this third one. So because we are kind of aiming towards the next one, that means that when we draw our next line, which is going to be similarly going from here through here towards here, our lines will overlap. We won't end up with, or at least ideally we'll avoid ending up with any kind of stiff or bump or visible issue in between. Now, obviously it doesn't always come out perfectly, especially when you start practicing this. It can be quite tricky to do, and I still have trouble with it because I don't practice this particular exercise as much as I should. So don't be discouraged if you end up with a lot of issues. And make sure you're rotating your page so that you're always approaching it with the most comfortable angle. So you just want to go from this second ellipse through the third towards the fourth. And we want to try our best, without stiffening up and slowing down too much, we want to try our best to line up with our first or previous line. This one might actually be tricky because I think I might have messed up this trajectory a little bit. So I might instead aim to cut through the ellipse around here for the sake of maintaining my line, but we'll see how it goes. This one kind of dipped a little bit too far, but we'll keep going. Try not to push too far beyond the next one, just aim towards that fallen one rather than going all the way towards it. Because when you end up going too far towards it, you end up with these extra little lengths that look rather chicken scratchy, which is something to be avoided. So let's try that again. Put down our flow. Draw some ellipses, keeping in mind how this object is, or how this pipe is going to be flowing through space. Make sure we rotate so that we can get a comfortable angle of approach. Goes through our lines. Try not to go too far beyond, just far enough to kind of set up the next line. Yeah. So while you will make mistakes, one that kind of didn't go perfectly is still usable. You can still kind of, it can still come out fairly solid, even though you might have had a little bit of a chicken scratchy issue here or whatever, but it's still entirely usable for a drawing. Remember that all of our drawings in our Drawabox lessons are really just exercises. So with all the mistakes that we make, it's not like just because it's not going to come out perfectly in the end, it's a useless drawing. It's still very useful to us. So don't get discouraged when you make mistakes, because they're going to happen. It's just a natural part of the learning process. Just keep pushing on forwards. You're going to have so many more branches that you can draw. You're going to have so many more plant drawings or whatever, however you're going to be using them. So just because one went wrong doesn't mean that you shouldn't continue to push through to complete that drawing and then try again later. So to kind of break this down again, there's the 3 steps are: you establish your flow with a line, you add your ellipses, your slices, and then you connect your slices. Be aware of the whole chicken scratchy thing. You don't want to end up with a lot of kind of tangents, and this happens more often when you are overshooting too much. Overshoot just a little bit, just enough to have something for your next line to kind of flow from and into. Like that. And ultimately, if you end up with little gaps, it's not such a big deal. Just keep striving for perfection, but don't expect it. Hopefully that clarifies that exercise, and I hope you guys have a good time doing it. Try not to cry too many tears.